Hi, today we're going to be making a Lego face generator. I'm going to be using Figma to do this with the help of a plugin. If you don't know what Figma is a design tool geared towards mobile app and web experiences. An unlikely candidate for an illustration tool. Most people are going to recommend Procreate or Illustrator or Adobe Photoshop. And obviously, for good reason, those are great tools. The reason why I'm choosing this one is a few reasons. It's a vector drawing tool. It has plugins, which we need if we're going to do this, and it's free. And I want to make sure that I'm using free tools so that you guys can always participate and follow along. I'm not just saying it's free, like a 14-day trial. I'm saying it's free forever. If you go to figma.com and you go to the pricing, it literally says free forever. That's awesome. So like I said, most things are 14-day trials. And at the end of that trial, you're paying full price. And even during the trial, sometimes they lock you out of features. So you're not even getting the full experience of that product. Kudos to Figma. That's really cool. I mean, don't feel bad for them. They're raking it in because they are probably the most popular design tool in that industry. Adobe wanted to acquire them, and Adobe had Adobe XD. It was a competitor tool to Figma, and they were still trying to broker a deal to acquire Figma. And I don't think this was a play to eliminate the competition. I think they just knew that Figma was the better tool, and it was being adopted more widely. Figma's not sponsoring this. I've been a long time user of this. I have a paid plan just because I do a lot of other stuff too. But you should definitely, as a hobbyist, you should definitely just get the free plan, and it can last you forever. I know it says free forever, and they mean that. Like, you could totally live off of just that free plan forever. So in the description, I have a .fig file, which is the Lego face generator. I hope you download it and you follow along because it's going to be a fun one. Why don't we just get into it? I'll see you in there. I'm here at the landing page of the web-based version of Figma. You can use the web, and there's also a download for a desktop version. You can get a PC or Mac version. I use both. In terms of the interface, they're identical. If you download my .fig file, to import it, you can come up to the top right, click import, and then just choose from your computer, and then you just need to locate that file. It'll show up right here. Double click it, and we'll just take a look. So here is my file. I'm going to zoom in, just show you. The plugin that I'm going to tell you about, it does require you to take part in providing the source material. Whatever input I give it is what I get out of it. What the tool is doing is deciding, how many combinations are available, and it will spit out whatever number you want to. So let's just jump right in and try it. Here's the artboard that I need to select. The plugin, you can go into this menu down to plugins, go to manage plugins. The plugin I'm using, type in NFT, and I'm using NFT Creator Unlimited. If you're familiar with NFTs, then you'll be familiar with sort of this process. NFTs are a lot of them, not all of them, but a lot of them are sort of avatar looking, and they're just a lot of combinations of different features. Out of all of the features that I'm feeding into it, I get 13,608 possible combinations. So let me hit generate, and no, I'm just kidding. I don't want to generate 13,000. Let's do 50 and hit generate. So what it's done is it's cycled through. I have 4 categories. I have colors, eyes, mouths, and these face details, which just have freckles and blush lines. And then I put 4 more that were blank because I don't want every single head to have freckles. So you can see these top 3 don't even have any. It's random. So I have freckles and these blush lines, and then 4 others that are blank. So 2 out of 6 heads will have something. So these have a lot of freckles, but you can see none of these are identical. And that's the way this plugin works. For a single generation, meaning you click generate once, whatever number you put in there, if you put in 1,000, you will have 1,000 unique heads. None of them will be the same. If you run it a second time and you type 1,000, there's a likelihood that you might have 1 or 2 that actually are the same. But in a single generation, you will always have unique. So let's take a look at some of them. So it's all about where you place things. So I added some glasses, and those are attached to my eyes. Let's take a look at some of the, I'm going to turn off my controls. I hit Command and the period to turn on and off my control panel. So you can see all the different eyes that I've created. I've even included some of the brow lines. And I'm using blending modes if you're wondering. Blending modes can adopt the color that's underneath it. And since I have these options for, you can see the brow lines on here. They almost look like a burnt amber color, but on the blue, they just inherit the blue. And if I didn't choose the blending mode, it wouldn't look as good. Okay, so we have all these different variations. And these are all the same artboard size, 500 by 500, my female versions. This one's called The Rock. I named it The Rock because of the eyebrow. And then we got some Harry Potter-esque eyes here. Some different glasses, like a God of War guy right here. And then we have all our mouth shapes, and I've just attached certain things. So one thing to think about, if you set up your character a certain way, you could have the eyebrows be their own category. You could have just eyes and then eyebrows as a whole other category. You could have mouths and then have mustache or facial hair be its own category. Totally up to you. The reason why I put them together is because I really wanted to compose how each mouth looked. And if I had a mustache, if I had it in the same place on other artboards, my other components, it wouldn't align properly. So I had to be very sort of custom about this. So that's it. So I'm going to start from scratch. We're going to create something of our own, and then we'll generate it. And I'll show you how to build your own thing. Earlier, feel free to use my stuff. You're welcome to use whatever you generate from my stuff. Feel free to build on it. This file is yours to use however you want. I'm just giving you full freedom to use it. I put Spider-Man and Venom in here because I made these in Figma as well. So you can do some really fun stuff. Like, I didn't want you to feel like you were sort of pigeonholed into like making very basic Lego faces. You can do the cool ones too. If you ever are far away, but you can select the name of it, you can also hit Shift-2 and it'll zoom right into whichever thing you have selected. It'll zoom sort of like to fit the screen. I want to do, as part of the end of this video, I want to recreate this Venom one because there's a lot of little tricks in here that I think you'll benefit from, but pretty cool, right? So vector data, when you export, 1x and 100x will be, they're the same sharpness. You could make it 1000x and it'll be sharp. Okay, so let's pretend we didn't have anything in here. One trick to close everything up in the layers, you can do Option L and then just tidies up, closes every folder. I love that one. We need to start with an artboard. Figma calls it frame. Artboards and frames are interchangeable. They're so interchangeable, in fact, that the A key actually works as creating an artboard and the F key works as creating a frame. They're the same thing. So I clicked here outside of my frame, and you can see that this right panel is contextual. It's only giving me the things that I can change for my project file. I can change the color. As soon as I select the frame, you can see these properties update. So what we want to do is come in here and type in 500 by 500. That's what I've been working at. Let's start by making just the two eyes in the mouth of the Lego face. So here are your drawing tools. You have this menu where you can bring in primitive shapes. You can also place an image if you want. And your pen tool. You could use pencil and freehand draw, but we're going to be using the pen and we're going to be using the ellipse. Okay, so I'm just going to make sure that I have it selected. I'm going to come into my artboard. Here's what happens if you draw outside your artboard. It's just going to be a free floating shape. If you start to bring it over, it'll sort of get sucked into your artboard. And then you can see that it's masked by the bounds of this. And then if you went too far, it'd just pop out. So we made a circle. Let me delete that real quick because when you start to draw, it's a free form sort of shape. You can make stretched, you can be very stretched ellipse. If you want to lock the proportions, just hold Shift. And now it's going to, and you can see everything's scaling from the top right. If I hold Option now, I'm still holding Shift, but if I add Option into it, it's going to scale from the center out. This is my preferred way of sort of working. Okay, so I need to figure out the size of the eyes. I think, something smaller than what I had. Let's make them black. And I'm going to hold Option and Shift and just click and drag out a copy. You can also just select and do copy paste and it's there. You just got to drag it out. So that works too. I'm going to hit V. So this is your move/select tool. Move/select. I'm going to draw a marquee around these two. And I want you to keep an eye on these red lines that keep appearing. These are very helpful guides, and it's telling me that this is my center, my horizontal center. If I start to go further down, you'll see the vertical center line show up, and it's attaching to any of the edges. So this is the bottom edge. It'll snap to the center. So this is perfectly center right now. Another way to do that is to use the alignment tools. However, if I hit left align, both eyes are going to align to each other because they're not grouped yet. They're still individual. If I selected these and I did Command G, look over here, I've created a folder. I don't know what this third one is. We have two there. Okay. So it creates a group, and now I can use these. Once two items are in a group, we're now just aligning the group. So now you can see I can align left and right, center, top, bottom, center. And if you want to ungroup, you can do Shift Command G to group, Shift Command G to ungroup. And now they're back to being ungrouped. But if you just marquee select both and move around, you'll automatically get those guys. So let's move it roughly here. That's fine. We're going to pick our pen tool now and make the mouth. You can also just hit the hotkey P. So we hit P. I'm going to hold Command and use my mouse scroll wheel to zoom in and out. If you're using a trackpad, you can just pinch and zoom. If you want to pan around your project file, you can hold down the space bar. You'll see your hand, click and drag. So I do a lot of Command scroll wheel to zoom, space bar, click and drag. Okay, so let's just click once. We have the pen tool. Click once. You can see it's waiting for me to click the next point. So it's kind of free floating. If I hold Shift, I lock to 45-degree angles. 45. So let's come over here and click. And then I'm going to hit return to close that, just to end that tool. So we got a very thin stroke. Let's come over to the stroke properties here. Let's type in 15. So I just punch in that. And now it's sort of robot. I'm going to also align it to the horizontal center. You know, it feels a little bit robotish. If you want to round the corners, just come down to these menus and you have to do one for each side. So now it's rounded. Let's come over here. I want to tell you about transform mode versus point mode. So the easiest way to do it, it's hard to see it on this single stroke, but let's come over to the eye. You can see there's a bounding box around it with square corners, little square points. This is transform mode. Hover over any of the edges and you'll have this double arrow and you can squash and stretch. Same on any side. If you come to the cornea, you get a 45-degree double arrow, and that just is controlling the X and Y together. If I go a little bit further out, I get this curved double arrow, and that's the rotation. So if I squash this so you can tell I'm rotating. Okay. So that's one mode. If I do Command Return, I'm using a Mac. So if I hit Command Return, I'm in point mode now. You don't see that bounding box, and you see, instead of square points, you see circle points. If I zoom in, if I click on one of these, it turns blue, and it starts to bring in these handles. These are called Bezier handles. You can drag and move this around. You can stretch it, shrink it, angle it. Sometimes these are linked. And if you want to link them, start to drag this handle in line with the other handle. You'll see it turn red. Then let go of your mouse click. And then just come back and it'll be linked. You can see now it's a seesaw. If you want to return it back to the detached version, you can hold down Option, click, and drag, and now it's detached again. If you want to turn a rounded, so anytime you see Bezier handles, that indicates that you have some round edge. If you want to turn it to a sharp edge, you can hold Command and just click it. It becomes sharp. If you want to reverse that, just Command and click it again. Okay, so this is point mode that we're in. If you do Command Return, there's your bounding box. You're back in transform mode. Command Return, point mode. Command Return, transform mode. So just remember that. Another way, and you're going to be like, well, why didn't you just tell me this? You can double click to enter point mode too. Okay, I told you all that because right now you can't tell, but we're in transform mode for this mouth. So we want to hit Command Return to go into point mode. I'm going to hit P to access my pen tool. And if we hover over this line, there's going to be a new dot. It doesn't actually exist. It's just sort of an indicator of where the center dot would be. So you can click on that. I'm going to hit V to switch to my move select tool. I'm going to click, hold shift, and just drag down. And I'm going to make a happy face. Right now, not a happy face. Hold command, click this dot, and you can see that it's switched from a sharp point to a rounded point. These Bezier handles should be linked, so all I need to do is drag them out. So you can see I have this free form control. If I hold shift, I'll lock to 90 degrees or 45 degrees. So I'm just going to look for a nice rounded mouth, and that's good. So I'm just going to hit command return and zoom out. So we have this sort of Lego face. If I wanted to scale this mouth, I could hold down option so that it scales from the center, versus if I don't, it scales sort of from the bottom left point. I'm going to undo real quick. So option and shift can just scale. I was going to scale it down just a little bit. And you can see that the stroke width hasn't changed. Even though I scaled, it's going to keep the same stroke width. If you want to scale and have the stroke scale with it, you need to hit K, and then you can do the scaling. You can see the larger I make it. Let's look at what our stroke size is. I have to close this. Our stroke size is 57. I'm trying to give you as much information about this as we go. Okay, so that would be the starting point. Let's say I'm happy with that. I want to create at least two artboards for the eyes and two artboards for the mouth. So let's hold option and shift and click and drag down. So to create our eye, let's delete the mouth, and to create our mouth, let's delete the eyes. Now we have the start of our category, our eyes category and our mouth category. Let's select this frame and come over here. You see next to your fill color, you see an eyeball. Let's turn off our background visibility. Same for the mouth. Turn that off because we don't want a background on these things. So I'm not going to rename this yet, but hold down option and shift and drag out another one. Okay. And we need to make some kind of difference for each of these. So I'm going to select this one, option, shift, click and drag outward. You can see it's snapping to the one above it. Okay. So we need to make some changes. I'm going to make this one a frown. So I'm holding down shift and I'm just using that rotate control to rotate it. I'm going to hold command, click and hold shift, command click and then hold command shift and click the next one. And now I'm holding down option and I'm just stretching up. So these are more like happy face shaped eyes. Okay. So here we have 4 frames. The plugin that we're using needs component sets. So we're 2 steps away from that. Right now we need to go from a frame to a component and then from components to a component set. So right now you can change a frame to a component right here. There's this 4 diamond pattern. You can see if you hover create component. So let me click that. It turns sort of this purplish color. And then you can see that our icon is no longer this hash mark. It's turned into this 4 diamond pattern. That's the indicator that it's a component and the coloring. There's another way you can do that. You can right click and just go down to create component. That's also the same thing. You can also see that there was a shortcut for create component, which is option command K. So let's try it that way too. All these ways work. So we need to make them all components. Briefly, let me just tell you what a component's good for. And remember, this is a tool for web design and mobile app design. But if I do option, click and drag, you can see there's no name attached to this one. This is an instance of this one. This is my master file. Watch me select something here. And you can see anything I do here is mirrored here because this is like a child of an instance of it. Doesn't matter how many copies I do of this, there'll always be a master, one ring to rule them all kind of thing. Okay, so I now want to create a component set. So a set is obviously multiple components. So let's marquee select. I'm using the move tool here. And over here on the right panel, you can see combine as variants. I'm going to click this. And if I zoom in, you can see there's now a dashed border around my 2 components. and that is a component set. I'm going to double click on this, or you can even come up here, either or works. So let's double click, call this eyes. And now let's marquee select our mouths and do the same thing. I'm going to call this mouths, of course. Okay. So now we have two categories that mirror our two categories down here, mouths and eyes. That is exactly how I did this. So we want to name these. So these would be sort of, I'm just going to name these eyes 1 and 2. I know, super creative. I'm not looking here. I'm actually looking down at current variant, and it says property 1, frame 2. Here, I want you to double click on the property 1, and let's rename this eyes. And then on frame 2, let's name this particular eyes 1. This one, you don't have to do the category. You can just do the component name, eyes 2. We'll be more creative on this one. We need to change property 1 to mouths. This one will be smile. Select this one. Mouths equals frown. And now if you were to double click the frame layer over here, you'll see that mouths equals frown. And it's because we have mouths frown. What does this do? If I were to option, click and drag, I can drag either of these. What we've done now is we've set up a selectable menu for this instance. This is a copy of this component set. So over here we have eyes, and we have eyes 1 and 2. We can toggle using this drop-down menu now. Drag out this one. We have a smile and a frown. Okay. This is enough to start. Let's create an artboard that's also 500 by 500. I'm hitting A. Remember, you can use A or F. I'll click and drag, switch it to 500 by 500. I'm going to double click and call this face generator. Now we need to drag. These are also 500 by 500. Drag them in here, and you can see that it's down and to the right. So let's do left align and top align. Let's drag this one on top of that one. Same thing, left and top align. Okay, we are ready to use the plugin. Come over here, go down to plugins, and you won't have it yet. So let's go to manage plugins. Use the search to type in NFT. If you're familiar with NFTs, this will all make sense to you right now. You're like, yes, that's what NFTs are, at least the avatar ones. They're like a bunch of features mixed and matched. Okay, so just click that. Let's run it. Right now, because I have my face generator artboard selected, it's telling me that there are 4 possible combinations we could make. So let's hit generate. And let's take a look. They're there. All 4 are unique. Pretty cool, right? So if I were to come over here, I want to do one thing real quick. Select, this is just a way to keep the layout nice and organized. Select the component set, just click eyes, come over to this auto layout and hit auto layout. And I want you to type into this is your padding between the things. Type in 20. Do the same here for mouse, click it, come down to auto layout and type in 20. Actually, I'm going to leave this one off because I want to show you what the difference is. Why did I do this? It's an organizational thing. So if I want to create a new one, I could just do copy, paste, and it sticks it right at the end. This is the one that has auto layout on. This one does not have auto layout on. If I hit copy and paste, oops, do I have it on? Oh, let me turn off auto layout. So now this one does not have auto layout. So if I hit copy and paste, it's just sort of sitting on top. Like it didn't nicely put it over and keep the 20 pixel gap. So I just turn that on automatically, auto grid, and it just helps me manage it. So now if I do copy and paste, also I didn't set up 20, I need to reset. So you can see the gap will be nice and tight. Okay, so now we have a third option, and we can just do squishy, squinty eyes, and this one, tilted mouth. I know you're impressed. Let's delete all these. And we don't have to do anything now. We can just come back to this face. It's already built into the two. If we look at over here, we have mouths and eyes. And the new ones we added are already part of those component sets. So we just go to plugins and rerun it. And we have to select this. We have 9 possible options now. Generate. Okay. So this is the basis for everything I just did. You can keep adding layers. So for me, this is the artboard that I had, which is equivalent to our artboard here. And that's how I made it. I just obviously made everything look nicer. But in here, in my file here, if you're wondering about this Lego shaped head, I just created a Lego. Let me show you what this looks like. I'm going to make a copy and drag it out of it and turn off the mask. I just have a shape that looks like a Lego head, and I just masked. So because I masked it and then generated, everything has a mask included in it. If I were to, I just think that helps me sort of visualize what it looks like. If I were to turn off that mask and then run the generator again, then they won't have it. And this will be better for exporting. There you go. And if I wanted to export all these, I could select all of them or one of them. Scroll down on the right side here to export. Say this looked like this. It had nothing. You just hit the plus. You just choose what file type from these options, JPEG. And then I was doing 4. So at 500 by 500, 4x would be 2000 by 2000 pixels. And now I can export 50 layers. And if you're wondering what the names would be, they would just be named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you wanted to rename these, then you could before you export. Not a bad idea. But that's the process. A Lego face generator. Hope you weren't clickbaited by that. I think this is what it is, really. So keep building on it. Like, have fun. If you want to keep adding one, all you have to do is select it, copy and paste. There's going to be a new one. You start drawing something new in there. It's going to show up when you generate next. This is all free for you to use. There's no copyright protection on this. Copyright free. Use it how you please. Okay, so I promised you that we do a little Venom drawing. And let's do that. I won't retrace what I have, but I did trace it from an image. So if I go to my reference page, here's what I traced it from. It's not that I'm lazy, but I can't remember what his eye shape looks like. So I had to have some kind of reference. So if I just drag this sort of into my artboard, it will absorb it at some point. So I'm just going to drag around. I'm going to use the left and right arrows to sort of get it in place. And then I want to lock it. So I come over here and I lock it so I can no longer move it around on accident. I also don't want it to be 100% opacity. If you hit 5 on your keyboard, look over here. Oops, I must have hit 5 and then 4. If you hit 5, you can see it's 50%. If I hit 3 key, 30, 20. If I hit 2, all the numbers at the top of your keyboard, you can just hit and it'll change opacity. If you want 100%, it's actually 0. And then 1 is 10%. I'm going to do 3. Too low. 4. Okay. I'll do 40%. We need to pick our pen tool. So you can hit the P key. If you want to go to, actually, let's just get started. So here I'm going to click and drag a little bit as I move around. Most of these clicks are going to be click and drags. If I click once, it's going to be sharp, remember. So click and drag. I'm going to do a short one here. I can already see that it's a black stroke and I don't want the thickness or the color. So let's do red and let's do 1. And there we go. This will be much better for tracing. So my only suggestion to you is just give yourself some room so that you can click and drag so that your Bezier handles don't overlap. I like to accentuate all these sort of peaks and valleys in this eye shape because I think that's where the character is. I think we're snapping to pixel. So there's a pixel grid and you might be seeing that we're sort of snapping to full pixels or half pixels. If you want to turn this off, you can do Shift, Command, and the comma button, which is next to your return. And you can see down here it says Snap to Pixel Grid disabled. If you do the same keybind again, it's Shift, Command, comma, it'll turn it back on. But now we can freely move about without it snapping to anything. Continuing on. All right. Feel free to interpret the shape. I'm going to go extra. I'm going to go in a little bit more than the actual eye shape. I like all the ins and out sort of motion of this eye. It goes wide, it comes back in and curves, and goes back out and curves. That's interesting to me. Okay, so you weren't locked into this. I hope you didn't feel that way, like you had to get it perfect the whole time. Because after we're done, we can come back and we can hit the V key, which is our select move key, and we can do all our touch-ups here. This is definitely not looking like it should. I want it to be sort of sharp here. I want the corner to be real menacing. So I just might need to shorten this. So this was the last point I clicked on to close the whole thing. What I forgot to mention, I'm going to undo. Okay. I forgot to mention that when you finally get to the last point and you want to close it, there's a little black dot that will show up under your pen tool. And that's the indication that you've got it. Because if you clicked here, if you're zoomed way out and you clicked somewhere that wasn't perfectly on top, you might not close the shape. So you want to look for that black dot that shows up. And you can still click and drag. You don't have to just single click. But my point was going to be that all the handles are linked on these, except for the last point. It's always broken. So remember my trick, if you drag and it turns red, which right there, I don't know if you can tell it turned red, just let go. And then when you click again, it'll be linked. Okay. So here's the refinement stage. I wish I had more to tell you as we were drawing, but this is sort of learn by doing. Like trying to tell somebody exactly how far to stretch out the Bezier hand. Like stretch it out, one half, like it's not going to be a fun video for one, but really you just play with it. You will learn, you'll catch on fast in terms of like how much distance you need to give yourself, how far out you want to drag the handle, at what angle the handle should be. And I've been using it for a long time, and look at this, I'm having to clean up so much stuff anyways. So I wouldn't try to be a Bezier handle master straight out the gates, but definitely learn by doing. My best advice is just start doing it. Okay. I'm noodling, probably too long, I know. Just trying to give you guys good content here, but I also don't want to take forever. Okay, so we obviously don't want a stroke. You can either hide it by hitting the eyeball or just subtract it and it'll go away. You haven't lost your shape, it's there, but if you hit fill, now you can make it, pure white. So for the most part, this face is symmetrical. So we're going to just do one half of the face. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Shift R and bring in our guides. You can see I actually had a guide there. Is it still part of this? Let me get out of this mode. Okay, you can see I have a guide, but what you do to get that guide there is you can either click here and drag or click on this side and drag. So we need a vertical, and this is a photograph. It's not perfectly aligned, so just rough in where you think the middle point is. Okay. So you remember I told you that this is transform mode, and if you hit Command Return, you're in point mode. If you start drawing again with the pen tool while in point mode, you're actually just adding to that shape, this original shape. These two are now, when I go outside, you can see my transform box goes around both shapes, because when you're in point mode and you start drawing, you're adding to this original shape. So I don't want that. I'm going to hit Command Return to be in transform mode. And then I'm going to hit P, and we're going to start drawing the teeth. So here's my center line. I'm going to draw the right half of the teeth, but I actually want to start beyond the middle guide. I want to start outside of it. And we're going to do something different here. We're just going to do single clicks. So I'm going to come here, click, click. Again, we don't have the color we want. Red there is fine. I'm just going to keep doing single clicks and making sharp cuts here. I'm going to show you a trick after this. We're going to round it out just a little bit. Click, click, and that's the end of our single clicks. I'm going to do the rest as kind of our normal click and drag rounded. And here's one important thing. I want it to end pretty flat. So if you hold Shift and you click, you can see I'm sort of locked here. So I'm going to click and go right above this one. And now I'm going to click one more time. And now we have this flat because I'm going to copy this and mirror it. And I want a very flat top for when I do it. So again, we don't want a red stroke. We just needed that while we were drawing. I deleted my stroke. I hit add on my fill. I'm going to just switch it to pure white. Command enter to go back to transform. So you can see we have two shapes rather than a joined shape. Okay. Select this one more time, hit command return to go back into this point mode. Here's the trick that I wanted to show you. Select the teeth vector points. And over here, you have something for corner radius that you can use to round out. So our range is somewhere around 0 to 8, it looks like. So it's not very, the range isn't very wide, pretty shallow. So maybe 1. Let me see what one looks like. Maybe 2. I'll go 2. I kind of want that same rounded amoeba shape going on. So this is an effect. It's not fully applied. You can see that our base path shape is still sharp, but you can, if you go back out to transform mode, command return, and you hit command E, that is the command for flatten. And now we just fully committed the shape to being rounded permanently, which is what we want. Okay, we're going to do the bottom teeth the same exact way. I'm going to click, single click. I don't know why it just doesn't use the last color I picked. Okay, we'll do white. Click, click, single clicks all the way through here. Okay, and then we're going to move on to being click and drag. Click and drag. I'm going to do hold down shift here at the end, click, and then I'm just going to close it off there. Okay. Again, we're going to subtract our stroke and add. Again, I got to pick this color every time. Not sure. Okay, we're still in point mode. I'm going to hit V. We want our select tool. I want to select these top teeth points. And we already know the value we want, 2. I'm going to hit enter. I'm going to hit command return to go back to transform mode, and then command E to flatten. There we have both teeth, the right side for both of our teeth. Let's do the tongue quickly. Okay, hit P key. I'm going to start at this. I'm going to start a little bit outside of it. I'm going to hold shift. Actually, I think we're fine. I'm just going to click and drag a small amount. And then I'm going to come up here. I could probably do this 10 times and it would be, I would click and draw the shape differently every time. So no right or wrong. This is a learn by doing thing. Like I mentioned, we'll go there. Here, many ways to achieve the same goal. Here. Okay. One more. Kind of want to end flat, so I'm going to try to drag this one out a bit. And then we'll come down. I see the black dot underneath, and I'll just click and drag out. Okay. Command return. I'm going to subtract our stroke and add, and let's color this something red. Ooh, didn't mean to do that. Good enough. We also have just one more thing. We have this sort of asymmetrical. These are not the same, but I like that. I like that there's some symmetry and then at least one thing that's not symmetrical. We'll try to do this real quick. Make sure we're not in point mode. Okay. This one, we just want white. Let's start drawing. Click. I'll just make it 4 points. Click. Again, very frustrating. I need to figure out what the trick is to keep the color, the last used color. It just makes sense to me that it would just automatically adopt your last used color. Okay. Subtract and add the fill. Let's make it pure white. Okay. That half is good to go. We can use our move/select tool, select everything. Let me get out of point mode. Okay, select everything. I'm going to hold down Option and Shift, and then I'm going to click and drag. The shortcut to flip everything is just Shift H for horizontal. Now I'm going to hold down Shift, and I'm going to I'm also looking at the teeth, and I want the peak to be in line with the other one. So I'm just sort of eyeballing it. We'll fix the individual things. These teeth, I think, need to be, I'm going to select the right side and use my right arrows to tap 1, 2, 3. I'm selecting the left side now and tapping the left arrow, 1, 2, 3. That's better. This tongue, I'm going to tap and 1, 2, tap the right side, 1, 2. There's a little bit of weird, so let's actually go back a little bit. What side? I have the right side, tap once, select the left side, tap once. Okay, that's good. So I'm going to join the 2 top teeth, the 2 bottom teeth, and 2 sides of the tongue. So let's do that. I'm going to click and then shift click this one. And we're going to come up here. We have some Boolean operations. I'm going to hit union. And like I mentioned, they're not fully welded together. This is just sort of a temporary join. So select the union folder and hit Command E. And now they're fully welded. The only issue we have here is we have all this rounding except for where we joined. So let's hit Command Return to go into point mode. select our point, and we know the value that we need is 2. Okay. And now let's go out of point mode, Command return, and let's flatten, Command E. Okay, I'm going to turn off my guide, so Shift R to turn off the guide. I also can turn off my image, reference image, right there. Okay. And let's select both of our tongue sides and make it red again. Okay. We can just join this one. If you want to see just an outline, you can do Command Y. So I might bring it closer together. That looks good. And I know that we won't have perfect centering, but we can change that afterwards. Command Y to go out of outline mode. I'm going to select and then shift select the next thing. We're going to do the same thing. Union under our Boolean tools here. I'm just going to automatically hit Command E to flatten that folder so that we have one shape now. Okay. And then we just need to do bottom teeth, joining them. So select, shift select the other one, Boolean. And you remember how we had flattened out, let me undo, how we had flattened out that part right here. When we flip, this helps the alignment better. Okay. Boolean, Command E to flatten, Command return to go into point mode. Let's select this point and make sure that we hit 2 to round it. Go out of point mode, Command return, Command E to flatten. Okay, so now we have all the pieces that we want joined. And I'm going to select the tongue and the 2 teeth objects. And it's going to be subtle, but I'm going to hit center. And it'll just be a subtle movement. But everything got centered. If we come up here, I need to turn on my reference. So this one was sort of asymmetrical. I'm just gonna stretch it, rotate it. Oops. Okay, lower it a little bit. I double click to go into point mode this time. I'm just gonna shrink this a little. Kind of want it a little more sharp. That's fine. Maybe a little more sharp on the end. I mean, he's got to be this menacing guy. You don't want these things too soft. Okay, a little sharp edge. It's good. Okay. All right. I think that looks great. I'm going to turn off the Venom image. And then if I selected everything and just call it face. Okay. So that's the whole process. I mean, let's sort of look at how well I did compared to my first one. Pretty close, pretty close. I expanded your tool set a little bit more by showing a couple of those extra Boolean shape actions as well as some shortcut key commands. I hope that gives you a good jumping off point to make your own thing. And I hope I told you correctly, or at least explained it clearly, how to make your own face generator. So that tool again was NFT Creator Unlimited. So you got a free tool out of this and you got a free plugin out of this. Yeah, go have fun. I would love to see anything you make. If you expand mine, I'm happy to keep this file growing. So it's sort of an in-progress file. If I make updates and I improve it and I add a lot more facial features, I'll link it in the description of this video and I'll comment that I've updated it. Say like, hey, there's a new version if you want to download the new one. You know, why not? Let's keep this going. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching. Keep making things and I'll see you next time.